do in that situation?
A federal protection is in place to help keep renters a roof over their head during the pandemic, but Hoosiers across the state are still at risk of being evicted. WRTV Investigates finds out why and what you need to know. New COVID-19 cases at near record levels in Indiana. What health experts are most concerned about going forward. Democracy 2020, 3 weeks from the election, and we are taking a deep dive into the race for governor. Today we go one-on-one with Governor Eric Holcomb. Welcome into the news at 6. I'm Amanda Starantino. COVID-19 has not only taken thousands of lives here in Indiana, but countless jobs and sources of income for many Hoosiers. Unemployed and without a paycheck, many people in the state are at risk of being evicted from their homes. WRTV Investigates Stephanie Wade joins us now to explain the federal protection in place that's supposed to stop evictions, but some say it's failing to do so. Stephanie.
Amanda, a new study finds up to 250,000 people are at risk of being evicted right now in Indiana. 150,000 evictions are expected to be filed by January. Now, despite the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issuing a national moratorium on evictions a month ago to try to prevent this, WRTV Investigates found evictions are still happening as we speak. Many people questioning how.
So I guess this will be going to storage.
Toy Pollard.
The hard thing about it is not knowing where, how much stuff that you need on a daily basis to survive.
And her children are packing up.
It is so sad for them. And they're the real victims.
They're facing eviction in the middle of a pandemic.
I think it's inhuman. They know what's going on right now. And unfortunately, people like me, we don't have a lot of resources or anybody we can turn to.
A single mom, domestic violence survivor, and working as a certified nursing assistant when COVID-19 hit. She stopped working to take care of her children.
There's so much stuff going on. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
Patrick Vick is also at risk of being evicted.
The fact that we're all about to crash out of the economy and be homeless is mind-boggling to me.
He was working at a software company doing tech support.
This is where I lost the job on the 17th.
But was let go when businesses first shut down in March. The company tried to bring him back a few months later, but couldn't.
I lost the same job twice due to COVID. I have to smile or I'll cry. Yeah.
Leaving both tenants with no income and no way to pay their rent. But then a glimmer of hope, despite Governor Eric Holcomb's decision to not extend Indiana's eviction moratorium beginning August 14th, which was keeping them in their homes. The CDC imposed one of its own nationwide. The federal moratorium, which took effect September 4th, aims to avoid mass evictions and contain the spread of the coronavirus. Tenants just have to print and sign a declaration form from the CDC's website. But not everyone qualifies for this blanket protection. You must have, quote, used best efforts to obtain all available government assistance for rent or housing, earn no more than $90,000 a year, are unable to pay rent due to substantial loss of income or hours of work, and are using best efforts to make partial payments.
I emailed them and I said, based on that declaration, I do believe I qualify.
Vic, seemingly meeting all of the criteria.
I have the documents right here.
He alerted his landlord, but they still moved to evict him.
Are evictions still being filed?
Yes. And there are a number of reasons.
Nationwide, there's been much confusion in how each state, each judge is handling this moratorium. Many evictions still moving forward despite the federal order. What we are now seeing popping up across the country and right here in Marion County are landlords filing for eviction under non-payment, losing because of the CDC order, but then refiling their case as what's called a holdover eviction. If during the now 7-month COVID period, someone's lease has also expired. Take this case in Wayne Township, where the tenant won protection and was granted to stay on September 22nd, but then 2 days later, the landlord refiled for a holdover eviction. If this continues to happen, experts say a significant amount of renters are still at risk of eviction.
Anything that can keep someone in a safe home and out of an unhoused situation, out of homelessness, is good, is important. Whether or not it's available to everyone is where it falls short.
Now, at the same time, while tenants are struggling, so are the landlords, property owner advocates say. Put in scary situations with mortgages, maintenance, property taxes, utilities to keep up of their own.
If property owner is unable to meet these financial obligations, the property becomes at risk of foreclosure. So that's been very problematic for our industry.
The president of the Indiana Apartment Association tells me the rate for overdue rent has been as high as 24%, when it typically run 1 to 2% before the pandemic. If landlords can't pay their bills, this order could jeopardize the very homes and renters it intends to save.
My question is, why me?
So what now?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Now, the Apartment Association feels there needs to be more rental assistance issued by the government because even at the end of this moratorium, all that rent is still owed. We tried speaking with a landlord for this story, and we'd still like to hear from anyone willing to share how this issue is impacting them. As for the two renters we spoke with, we put them in touch with the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic. It's a free clinic that anyone watching this at home right now can utilize as well. For Ms. Pollard, she did not meet the CDC requirements for protection, the eviction citing another issue that came into play. But for Mr. Vick, with the help from the legal clinic, he was able to avoid eviction. He's safe to stay in his apartment through the end of the year. Amanda.
And Stephanie, that's good to hear about Mr. Vick, but obviously this is a confusing issue.
It's very confusing, and the courts are handling each eviction filing very differently. The biggest issue and what advocates are most worried about is if leases expire, which many are right now. As you can imagine, the pandemic shut the state down back in March, and it's now 7 months later. And if that means people are no longer protected under this moratorium, many people could be kicked out of their homes very soon here, up to that 250,000 number, as that study finds. Amanda, back to you.
Stephanie, thank you for your reporting on that topic. And COVID-19 cases remain near record levels in Indiana. Today, the State Department of Health confirms 1,581 additional cases of the coronavirus. A total of 136,555 Hoosiers have been diagnosed with COVID-19 since March. And experts say while things may be opening up again, that does not mean Hoosiers should relax when it comes to social distancing or masking up. Since Friday, there have been nearly 7,000 additional COVID-19 cases reported. WRTV's Troy Washington finds out what health experts are concerned about moving forward.
Experts have learned about the coronavirus since March.
We're probably getting better at taking care of sicker patients. We have multiple treatment options that are available that are now evidence-based compared to March that we know have merit. Those include medications like remdesivir and dexamethasone.
They develop methods that can make a difference when it comes to saving lives.
Procedures like proning, where we put people on their stomach in order to help them breathe better.
They've made necessary adjustments too.
We use N95 masks for specific procedures that create high quantities of aerosol that may be infectious.
Even with those steps, experts like Dr. Cole Beeler say we're still not out of the woods.
I'm extremely worried about a surge. And even though things are functioning and we're in stage 5, cases are going straight up in Indiana.
As the state starts to open again, experts are concerned how that will impact things here at the hospital since they're already treating many patients who have been diagnosed with COVID-19.
We still need to practice social distancing and should be masking, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of each other because otherwise the hospitals could get overrun this winter. We have good reason to expect, based on Southern Hemisphere precedent, that this is going to be a rougher season for COVID than the summer months.
Dion Campbell survived COVID-19 in March. He's only 26 years old, and he doesn't have an underlying health issue.
I was on a ventilator for 12 days.
How many days were you in the hospital?
About 40 days in the hospital, and then I went to rehab. COVID-19 is real. It exists. I've experienced it.
He says he's lost friends to the virus, and he is determined to share his story through his book, Ventilator, to serve as a warning.
I can't stress how important it is to really treat it like it's life or death. because it is.
Working for you, Troy Washington, WRTV.
Violence continues to surge in Indianapolis at record levels. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department is investigating at least 7 homicides that took place between Friday night and Sunday night across the city. Right now, Indianapolis has 187 total homicides in 2020, with IMPD labeling 160 of them as intentional homicides. That pushes past the previous record of 159 intentional homicides set in 2018. And there are still almost 3 months left in the year. Tonight, a vote could change the way IMPD operates and give unprecedented citizen oversight to the department. This comes at a time when police departments across the country face scrutiny over how they handle use of force situations. WRTV's Megan Sanctorum is live outside of the Indianapolis City County Council meeting where the vote is expected to happen here shortly. Megan, what could this mean for both IMPD and Indianapolis residents?
Well, Amanda, the proposal would add 4 appointed citizens to IMPD's General Orders Board, which currently has 3 law enforcement representatives. It would also give that board complete oversight of IMPD's policies and procedures. Supporters of this proposal say it will help strengthen police-community relations, increase police department transparency, and allow for more diverse input. It's something some faith-based leaders say they've been pushing for a while now. They say the community should have a say in how they want to be policed. But not everyone is on board with this proposal. Some worry it's too much, too fast. The FOP says it takes power away from the chief, will decrease officer morale, and could leave residents frustrated.
When citizens are frustrated with what's going on, they'll point fingers at their politicians. Their politicians will point fingers at the civilians on the board, and the civilians on the board will point fingers at the police department. And there's no clear line of accountability.
This is something that we believe would be such a huge step toward just bringing that unity and, as I said before, accountability to our police department and helping the community as well as the police departments that serve those communities work together in ensuring that there's a good relationship and that everything is being looked at from both sides.
The proposal has strong support from the council already. 18 of the 25 council members have signed on as co-sponsors to this. I reached out to the mayor's office today. They said he was unavailable for an interview, but a spokesperson there did say that he supports this proposal. Reporting live, Megan Sanctorum, WRTV.
Democracy 2020, we are going inside of the race for governor here in Indiana. Over the next 3 days, we are talking to all 3 candidates. Today, we go one-on-one with Governor Eric Holcomb. That's next.
And look at this rain, even some thunderstorms, a line from Frankfort to Danville. Heavier downpour with some lightning east of Greenfield. We'll take a radar tour, talk about other opportunities for rain and a big change late week.
Democracy 2020 is taking a look at the race for governor this week. We spoke to all 3 candidates and asked them the same 4 questions with no time limits. Among the questions, what did they learn from this unprecedented year? What is the top issue heading into the legislative session? If elected, what would they accomplish in their first 100 days? And why should voters elect them? We begin with Governor Eric Holcomb. The incumbent says the budget, public health, and jobs will remain top priorities in a second term.
Eric Holcomb has been the face of the state's COVID-19 response, issuing executive orders and a mask mandate to deal with the pandemic. Now he's seeking a second term as governor.
The Democrat says he could do better. The Libertarian says you've done too much. You've exceeded your powers. So why you?
Well, it's not just what I say, it's what I do, and it's what I've done. And easier said than done. I think, just to repeat myself, maybe in 3 words: proven, prepared, and passionate. And passionate about people.
Holcomb, a Navy veteran, has been navigating in uncharted waters. Before the pandemic, Indiana's economy was the envy of its neighboring states, with unemployment lower than the national average. His top priorities in a second term, he says, would include The budget, people, training programs, and jobs.
I mentioned those 23,000 new job commitments that come online. There's over 100,000 open, unfilled jobs out there in the state of Indiana right now. And so we got to make sure that, I always say, I want every single person that wants a job to have one. These jobs, the people that are getting these credentials, those are an average, new hires, thousands, new hires right now, June to August. They're at an average $20.35 an hour. So when people talk to me about minimum wages, I'm like, well, why are we talking about that? That's for some, that might be your best first job. I don't want it to be your best last job.
Beyond the economy, the governor says the state has been able to make improvements on key social issues, like expanding services for addiction recovery, increasing foster children adoptions, and decreasing the number of infant mortality.
Not only have we've proven ourselves over 4 years, but we're prepared for the next 4. And what I mean by that is we've continued to be fiscally responsible, prudent, methodical, continue to make improvements. We don't run from challenge.
And you will hear from Democratic gubernatorial candidate Dr. Woody Myers tomorrow on the news at 6. And then on Wednesday, we talk to Libertarian candidate Donald Rainwater. Kevin.
It's been a while since we could start with this. Rain in central Indiana, even some thunderstorms. The stretch is 54 days without a 1/10 of an inch in a single day. We've had officially 2/100 of an inch of rain for Indianapolis so far today. Maybe we catch one more downpour. From the west side, if you get west of Bloomington, Spencer, up to Danville, and then Kokomo and Peru, that's the back edge of the line. There's a leading edge there as well. Brief downpours and some gusts of 40 miles per hour. The main impacts. Heavier rain sits just west of Kokomo, Frankfort, Lebanon. You've got a thunderstorm crossing I-65 and State Road 52. Brownsburg to Pittsboro and Liston, heavier downpour, and to the south, the narrow line that continues to Bloomfield, and then from Shelbyville to Seymour. I'll zero in on a heavier downpour just northwest of Knightstown. This is moving along Interstate 70, kind of destined there to cross State Road 3 and Newcastle in Henry County. Look what's taking over. It's 2/3 of the way there to pushing temperatures in the 70s out of the state and bringing in the cooler air from western Indiana, where temperatures are in the 50s. We may see some 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts in the downpours of rain. In general, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds will calm down. So as we wake up tomorrow morning, they'll be around 10 miles per hour. Isn't that beautiful? That is out west. This Putnam County looking to the west. You can see the scraggly clouds there as the cooler air settles in and the clearing line already starts to appear. Skies become partly cloudy. Temperatures lower to middle 40s tomorrow morning. Sunshine on the way tomorrow. It'll be back in full force, 70 degrees for the high. The temperatures will change dramatically and stay on the cool side as we get later in the forecast. 56 with more showers Thursday. That's the high Thursday. We'll stay in the 50s Friday and Saturday. Another chance for rain on Monday with a temperature of 61 degrees. Amanda?
Thanks, Kevin. The Colts are coming off a frustrating loss yesterday in Cleveland. Brad Brown has a look at some of the questions that need answers ahead of the next game.
Over the course of a typical NFL game, there are usually just a small handful of plays out of maybe more than 100 that decide the outcome. Such was the case Sunday for the Colts in Cleveland.
Rivers steps up and throws. It's picked, intercepted.
Couldn't overcome it. We just weren't good enough today. I mean, I don't really have a lot of words to describe explain it other than weren't good enough. And so those things happen, and you regroup and go on to the next one.
Phillip Rivers picked 6 to Ronnie Harrison in the third quarter, gave the Browns their biggest lead of the game. At the start of the fourth quarter, Rivers got called for intentional grounding in the end zone. That safety would ultimately make the rest of the game an uphill climb for the Colts.
I wish maybe I would have stepped up and tried to buy a little more time. But when you're in your own end zone, you don't, not as comfortable doing that. But obviously a tough play all the way around.
We had a play that we really liked, and I got a little too aggressive with the call. Normally with that field position, 8 out of 10 times, I'm probably not making that call.
The offense as a whole continues to be a bit of a head-scratcher. Through the first 5 weeks, they've scored just 9 touchdowns and 15 field goals. If it weren't for kicker Rodrigo Blankenship, Indy would be dead last in the league in points scored.
Now we came out a little flat in the second half. I mean, what we had on 3 possessions in the first half. So, I mean, we just came out just a little flat. Then the defense picked it up, and then we didn't match their energy. So that was on us. We just got to be better. Go back to the drawing board and just get better.
Not executing in the red zone has been such a, kind of a burden for us right now. Not going down there and getting, 6 is hurting us. So that's obviously an emphasis where we just need to get better at.
The Colts defense had been the standout crew of the opening month, led the league in yards and points against. But Cleveland sliced and diced their way to more than all of those numbers in just the first half. 385 yards on the day, often making it look easy.
Again, we fought. I think we don't want any moral victories, but, to see us fight and, guys not waver. I love that. We didn't flinch at all. They're making great catches and everything like that, but we didn't waver. We didn't flinch. We come back in the second half, we make some huge stops.
Our defense played lights out in the second half to keep us in it and to give us a chance. So hats off to how we played defensively in the second half, and then we just couldn't quite make enough plays on offense to stay in it.
Next up, the Colts host the Bengals. Cincinnati has just 1 win in their first 5 games, but don't count on it being anything easy. The Colts will get what already feels like a much-needed bye week after that one. Brad Brown, WRTV Sports.
Rain will be confined to the eastern half of the state over the next couple of hours. That's looking from Speedway to downtown. Now let's look west out in Putnam County, and you can see the clearing line. We'll see you back here at 7.